I always thought my life was good. Not perfect, sure, but steady. Predictable in a way that made me feel safe. Every morning, I woke up next to my wife, Jenna, kissed my daughter, Emily, before heading out to a job I'd held for nearly 15 years. I thought we were a family. I thought love was woven into the small routines of our lives. Looking back, I realized how naive I was. The day it all started to unravel was just like any other, until it wasn't. I was sitting at my desk, half listening to the hum of the office, when I got called into my boss's office. Darren. I never particularly liked him, but I respected him. Or maybe I just trusted the structure he represented. The conversation was short, blunt. No build-up, no warning, just cold eyes and colder words. "We're letting you go, Mark. Company restructuring." I sat there stunned. 15 years. Projects completed, extra hours logged, vacations skipped. And just like that, I was no one. The walk to my car felt endless. The whole time, I rehearsed what I would say to Jenna. I imagined she would pull me into a hug, tell me we'd get through it together. I clung to that picture in my mind, like it was a lifeboat. When I got home earlier than usual, the house was empty. Jenna had taken Emily to dance class. I decided right then, I was going to make the evening special. Show them that even if life had just sucker punched me, my love for them hadn't changed. I went out and bought steaks, Jenna's favorite wine, Emily's favorite dessert. I even stopped at a little florist's shop and bought a handful of wildflowers. Something simple, something honest. The table was set when they came through the door. Jenna barely glanced at it. "What's all this?" she asked, voice sharp, suspicious even. I tried to keep my smile steady. "Just wanted to surprise you both. We can celebrate us, you know? No matter what." She frowned. "Celebrate what exactly? You losing your job?" Emily, who had been smiling at the table at first, froze. Jenna's words hung in the air like smoke, heavy and choking. "I'm sorry," I said, trying to laugh it off. "I know it's not great news, but we're a team. We'll get through it." Jenna snorted, pulling off her jacket and tossing it over a chair. "A team? Please. You've been coasting for years, Mark. Maybe it's about time reality caught up with you." Emily's eyes widened. She looked from her mother to me, confused, hurt. I felt something break inside me, a hairline fracture running across the foundation of everything I thought was solid. Dinner was ruined. Jenna picked at her food, barely speaking except to make a few more cutting remarks about finances and real men who knew how to provide. Emily stayed quiet, pushing her peas around her plate. That night, I lay awake while Jenna slept soundly beside me. I stared at the ceiling, trying to piece things together. Maybe it was just the stress talking. Maybe tomorrow would be better. But it wasn't. The next few days were a blur. I applied for jobs, called old contacts, tried to stay positive for Emily's sake. Jenna, meanwhile, was different, distant, dismissive. She spent hours on her phone, leaving the room to take calls. Packages started arriving at the house. Designer clothes, expensive electronics, things we couldn't afford now that I was unemployed. I asked her about them once. She laughed. "I'm handling it. Don't worry your pretty little head about it." That's when the knot of unease in my stomach turned into something heavier. One afternoon when she was out, I went through some papers in her office. I found credit card statements in her maiden name. New accounts I never knew existed, all maxed out. Trips, hotels, jewelry, tens of thousands of dollars. I sat there for a long time, the papers shaking in my hands. The betrayal wasn't just emotional anymore, it was financial, strategic. I needed answers. A few nights later, lying awake again, I heard Jenna's voice, low and sharp, filtering in from the kitchen. I slipped out of bed, careful not to make a sound, and crept to the top of the stairs. She was on the phone. "No, he has no idea. He's so pathetic, Darren. You should have seen him. Setting up some pathetic little dinner like it would fix everything." She laughed, a sound so cruel it made my blood run cold. "I almost feel sorry for him. Almost." Darren, my boss, the man who fired me. My mind raced, horror flooding in. It couldn't be. No, not Darren, not him, not them. But then she said something that shattered what little denial I had left. Emily's starting to ask questions, though, Jenna said. She doesn't understand why she looks so different from him. I told her not to worry. It's not like he'll ever figure it out. He's too busy playing house with someone else's kid. I backed away from the stairs slowly, heart pounding so loud I thought it might give me away. I stumbled back into the bedroom, closed the door softly behind me, and sat down on the edge of the bed. Emily, my daughter. I thought she was mine. I thought the love I had for her was built into my blood, my bones, and maybe it still was. Maybe biology didn't matter, but the betrayal, the lie, was too big to ignore. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. For the first time in my life, rage and heartbreak collided inside me, sparking something cold, sharp, focused. I realized then I had been living in a house built on lies, and it was time to tear it down. I wasn't going to confront Jenna, not yet. I wasn't going to scream or plead or beg. No, I was going to do this right. I started by calling an attorney the next morning, someone aggressive, someone who didn't just play to win, someone who played to destroy. I scheduled paternity tests, quietly, secretly. I opened a new bank account in my name only. I started copying every financial document, every email I could find. I installed a voice recorder in the living room, under the couch, and another in the bedroom. If Jenna wanted to make phone calls and confessionals, she would be performing for an audience now. I wasn't the naive husband anymore. I was a man building a case, one slow, patient, devastating piece at a time. The days that followed blurred into a haze of quiet preparation. Every moment I spent under the same roof as Jenna became a test of endurance. I smiled when I needed to. I nodded when she threw another insult my way. I played the role of the broken man, the defeated husband clinging desperately to the fragments of his crumbling life. But underneath, I was something else entirely. I was calculating, watching, collecting every shard of evidence like ammunition for a war she didn't even realize was coming. The attorney I hired, a man named Mitchell Price, was ruthless in the best way possible. His reputation was built on cases exactly like mine. Betrayals wrapped in years of marriage, hidden debts, affairs conducted under the noses of trusting spouses. He didn't speak to me like I was a victim. He spoke to me like I was a weapon, waiting to be unleashed. The first thing Mitchell did was guide me through the paternity testing process. It had to be discreet. Any slip-up could alert Jenna and send her scrambling to cover her tracks. So, I waited until a weekend Jenna was away on one of her girls' trips to swab Emily's cheek while she slept. It was one of the hardest things I'd ever done. Sitting on the edge of her bed, looking down at her peaceful face, I felt my hands tremble. How could something so small, so innocent, be caught up in something so ugly? I told myself it didn't matter what the results said. I loved her. That would never change. But I needed the truth. The swab went into a sterile envelope. The envelope went to a courier. No paper trail, no mistakes. Meanwhile, the recordings were pouring in. Hours of Jenna's late-night conversations, her laughing, gossiping with her friends, sneering about me. She spoke of Darren like he was her real husband, called him the real man in her life. It was almost mechanical, the way I listened to them, filed them away, labeled the audio files one by one. Betrayal no longer shocked me, it simply fueled me. One night, about a week after I sent the paternity sample off, I caught Jenna sneaking back into the house at 3 in the morning. I watched from the shadows of the hallway as she tiptoed inside, heels in her hand, makeup smeared. She smelled like a mixture of expensive cologne and guilt. She didn't even check to see if I was awake. She didn't care. The next morning, over coffee, I asked her how her night had been. She smirked. Went out with the girls. You know, some of us still have lives. I smiled, stirring my coffee slowly. Of course. I'm glad you're enjoying yourself. If she noticed the edge in my voice, she didn't show it. She was too far gone, too convinced I was harmless. By then, I had also started digging deeper into Darren. Corporate records, public filings. Mitchell connected me with a private investigator who uncovered some ugly things. Darren had been involved in multiple internal scandals, hushed up by settlements, affairs with subordinates, retaliation against whistleblowers. My firing wasn't just corporate restructuring, it was personal. Jenna had wanted me out, and Darren made it happen. It wasn't enough for them to humiliate me privately. They had to strip me of everything, piece by piece, until there was nothing left. The paternity results came back on a rainy Wednesday afternoon. I sat in my truck, engine idling, staring at the envelope for what felt like an hour. The rain tapped against the windshield, steady and insistent. I already knew what it would say. Still, when I opened it and read the words, it felt like a knife sliding between my ribs. Probability of paternity? 0%. Emily was not biologically mine. I pressed my forehead against the steering wheel and closed my eyes. I let the grief tear through me, silent and brutal, not because Emily wasn't mine by blood, but because of everything that had been stolen from me. The moments, the memories, the trust. When the storm inside me finally settled into something colder, harder, I picked up my phone and called Mitchell. "It's time," I said. My voice didn't even shake. He agreed. We had enough, more than enough. The recordings, the financial records, the paternity test. It was a tapestry of betrayal woven so tightly, even Jenna's lies wouldn't be able to unravel it. The plan was simple, clean, devastating. We would file for divorce, citing marital misconduct. We would demand full custody of Emily, leveraging Jenna's financial instability, her reckless spending, her late-night disappearances. Even if she fought, the evidence would destroy her credibility. Mitchell had also uncovered that Darren's actions in firing me could be grounds for a wrongful termination lawsuit. If we played it right, we could take down not just Jenna's fantasy life, but Darren's career along with it. I wasn't rushing, though. No, I was patient. Every day I acted like nothing had changed. I went to Emily's dance recitals. I mowed the lawn. I sat through dinner with Jenna's passive-aggressive remarks with a placid smile. All the while, I was a man standing inside a burning house, waiting for the perfect moment to walk away and let it collapse behind me. There was one night that stood out among the others. Emily had fallen asleep on the couch, worn out from school and practice. Jenna was out again, somewhere pretending she was still 25. I sat there, watching my daughter's chest rise and fall, listening to the soft sounds of her breathing. I realized then that revenge wasn't just about punishing Jenna or Darren. It was about reclaiming my life, about showing Emily that loyalty, love, and integrity still meant something, even if the people closest to you failed to live by them. I carried her upstairs and tucked her into bed, brushing a strand of hair from her forehead. No matter what the papers said, no matter what biology claimed, Emily was mine. The next morning, Jenna was nursing a hangover when I told her I'd be gone for the weekend. I needed time to clear my head, I said. She barely lifted her head from the pillow to grunt in acknowledgement. Perfect. Mitchell and I spent 2 straight days finalizing everything. Emergency orders, custody filings, divorce papers, asset protection moves. It was a full-scale blitz. By the time Jenna even realized the divorce was happening, the paperwork would already be filed, and the court orders would be served. I even prepared a final move, a letter, a simple, devastating letter to Jenna and Darren, detailing exactly what I knew, exactly how I knew it, and exactly what the consequences would be if either of them tried to fight dirty. Mitchell's investigators had found enough dirt on Darren to bury his career in scandal. I wasn't just taking my life back. I was taking theirs apart, brick by miserable brick. The night before I was set to file everything, I stood in the doorway of Emily's room, watching her sleep. There was no more doubt, no more hesitation. The man I had been, the trusting, hopeful fool, was gone. In his place stood someone sharper, stronger, forged by betrayal and heartbreak, into something they couldn't see coming. And tomorrow? Tomorrow I would strike. For the first time in weeks, a real smile tugged at the corners of my mouth, because in the end, they thought they had destroyed me. But all they had done was set me free. The morning sunlight poured through the windows, casting long golden lines across the hardwood floors. It should have felt like any other morning, but it wasn't. Not for me. Today was the beginning of the end. I moved through the house with a sense of purpose, calmly packing a small overnight bag. Nothing suspicious, just enough to make it look like I was stepping out for a few days to clear my head, like I had told Jenna. She didn't even stir as I moved around, her face buried in the pillows, the faint smell of last night's drinking still clinging to her. On the kitchen table, I left a handwritten note, simple, polite. Taking a few days to think about everything. I'll call you soon. I smiled to myself as I set it down. She would think she had finally broken me, that I was walking away quietly, tail between my legs. She wouldn't even suspect that the next time she saw me, it would be across a courtroom. I gave Emily a soft kiss on her forehead before I left. She didn't wake up. Maybe that was for the best. I didn't want her to see the cracks in my armor just yet. I drove straight to Mitchell's office. The papers were ready, everything meticulously prepared, every move thought out like a master chess player, lining up a final checkmate. By noon, the divorce petition had been filed. The emergency custody motion was signed by the judge 2 hours later, giving me temporary full custody of Emily based on concerns regarding the child's welfare and maternal misconduct, all backed by the mountain of evidence we had. Jenna's world was about to implode, and she wouldn't even see it coming until the ground gave way beneath her. The process server was waiting outside our house with the documents. By the time Jenna opened the front door, probably expecting some random Amazon package or a neighbor's greeting, she would instead be handed the legal equivalent of a demolition notice. I could almost picture it. The shock on her face. The rage boiling just under the surface. The realization that she wasn't the puppet master anymore. I stayed out of sight for the rest of the day. I wanted her to stew, to pace the house like a caged animal, to feel the walls she had built for herself begin to close in. By evening, the phone calls started. First one, then 5, then a dozen. I watched them light up my screen, one after another, Jenna's name flashing like a warning beacon. I didn't answer a single one. Then came the texts. What are you doing? We can work this out. Please just talk to me. You can't take her from me. The desperation oozed off the screen. It was almost pathetic. Almost, but not quite enough to make me feel anything but cold satisfaction. Mitchell advised me to remain silent. Let her twist in the wind. Anything she said now, any angry voicemail, any panicked admission, would only strengthen our case. And it didn't take long. Around midnight, Jenna finally cracked. A long, rambling voicemail filled with sobbing and screaming, where she admitted to making mistakes, to messing things up, to being stupid. She never named Darren directly, but she didn't have to. The implication hung heavy between her words. It was another gift, another nail in the coffin. The next day, Jenna's attorney tried to reach out for negotiations. It was almost laughable. They wanted an amicable solution, offering vague promises that Jenna would seek counseling, cut ties with Darren, and work toward a fresh start. I had Mitchell send back a polite but firm response. Full custody, no spousal support. And Jenna would vacate the family home within 30 days. Or we'd proceed to a full court battle. And I had no intention of losing. Jenna didn't realize yet just how thoroughly I had prepared for every move she could make. The credit card fraud, the secret accounts, the hidden money she had siphoned out of our joint savings, the way she used my health insurance to cover business trips that were nothing more than romantic getaways with Darren. It was all documented, all laid out in meticulous detail. Even Darren, for all his corporate savvy, had left a digital trail. Hotel receipts, flight itineraries, emails sent from work accounts, thinking no one would ever look closely enough. They had been sloppy in their arrogance, and now they would pay the price. A week later, Jenna was served with an additional civil lawsuit, this time for marital waste and fraud. Mitchell estimated that between damages, fines, and legal costs, she could be looking at financial ruin. Darren, meanwhile, had been quietly informed that if he didn't settle with me privately regarding my wrongful termination, the evidence of his misconduct would go public. If he thought firing me would be the end of it, he had another thing coming. Within 2 days, his lawyer offered a settlement figure that almost made me laugh out loud. It was generous, very generous, and it came with a non-disclosure agreement, of course. Standard. They wanted this buried. I had no intention of letting them off that easy. The day of our first custody hearing arrived, and Jenna showed up looking like a shadow of the woman who once stood so proudly above me. Her hair was a mess, her makeup smeared from crying. She refused to even look at me. When the judge awarded me temporary, full custody, pending a final decision, Jenna broke down in open court. I sat there, stone-faced, as she sobbed uncontrollably, trying to explain herself to a system that no longer cared about her excuses. I should have felt triumphant, victorious. But all I really felt was tired. Tired of lies. Tired of betrayal. Tired of pretending everything was okay. Later that evening, I took Emily out for ice cream. She didn't know the full extent of what was happening, of course. To her, it was just a special night out with Dad. As we sat on a park bench, watching the sunset streak the sky with brilliant colors, Emily leaned against me, resting her small head on my shoulder. "I'm glad we're together, Daddy," she whispered. I swallowed hard, blinking away the sudden sting in my eyes. "Me too, sweetheart. Me too." Because no matter what the blood tests said, no matter what papers were signed in cold courtrooms, this little girl was my family, my heart. And no betrayal wrapped in expensive suits or whispered lies, was ever going to take her away from me. In the weeks that followed, the divorce moved forward like a landslide. Jenna tried to fight, of course. She cried, she raged, she tried to play the victim. But the evidence was overwhelming. There was no coming back for her. No redemption arc where she apologized and we all hugged it out. She lost custody. She lost the house. She lost the fake little kingdom she had tried to build on lies and stolen trust. Darren's reputation took a hit too. Whispers circulated in the industry. Promotions dried up. Contracts evaporated. Word traveled fast in their world, and soon he was little more than a cautionary tale. As for me, I wasn't the same man who had once stood in that kitchen, nervously preparing a dinner that would never be eaten. I was sharper, smarter, stronger, and free. Free to rebuild. Free to love my daughter the way she deserved. Free to live a life no longer shackled to someone who never truly loved me. Sometimes in the quiet hours after Emily had gone to bed, I would sit by the window and let the night wrap itself around me. There was still pain, still anger, but there was also peace. The kind of peace that comes from knowing that, even after the worst storm, you can still pick up the pieces and build something stronger, something real. And maybe, just maybe, that was the greatest revenge of all.